Hi, welcome to the podcast. Even though this episode is kind of shorter, I still made the timeline for you so you can check if you're interested in some parts. And now just enjoy the episode. Have fun.
Which is fine. Like,
Yeah, it's so
I
much
think-
fun. Haha. Everyone is vibing. Yeah, exactly. Nobody's like, playing for world qualification or something, right?
I mean, my situation is definitely more pleasant than everybody else's. But I will say, like, I think this meta, like for this open, is going to be super enjoyable. The meta might be absolute dog shit, but we don't know that yet. So the open is going to be great.
Yeah, I don't actually know, but like, I don't think people much know what to play, honestly. And I think
Yeah,
it's gonna be like,
I think there's going to be a lot of like 3x Noxus aggro lineups just because, like, sure.
like my issue that I there's not three there's not three aggro decks. Let's be honest.
Yeah, I mean,
There's maybe one.
I think if you were trying to make a lineup that was like the triple aggro lineup, you should probably only play 2 Noxus, and it should be like Ziggs Poppy, like a Scion, or like Samira Draven, like some Draven deck. How many Scions, how many Samiras, how many Jinxes, hard to say, but like some Draven deck that's like aggro slanted, and then like just Thresh Nassus. And I think that's like a much better triple aggro lineup than like triple Noxus, because like you're gonna play Pirates or something, and Pirates just sucks.
Yeah,
So,
I think even like pop basics honestly gonna suck, but
to be honest, I think all those decks suck. I don't know.
I
If
think
I
a
need to
lot
look...
of like the meta suck honestly. I think like there's not that many good decks, and like when and then like you just can see like decks like Crash just punishing the thing that like not many decks are actually good, that they just able to steal these games that they shouldn't be stealing.
I would definitely say, I think what's it called? I don't think we have a single deck yet that we definitely know is good. We have some decks that we know aren't bad, but like, is it good? Is it mediocre? Hard to say.
Yeah,
I
think I have like Samara Seraphine. Yeah, I think that's
yeah,
very good.
that's like definitely felt good to me. But like also that's like the type of deck that both of us are gonna like.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not bad. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and be like, oh, actually, Samira Seraphine's a terrible deck. Like, I think it's like definitely playable, but like, is it good? Is it playable? It is at least playable. It could definitely be good. It could be broken, but hard to say past that. There's like a bunch of this just like problems with like between how like matchmaking works.
Yeah.
Oh, and like we can't even.
It's still broken. I don't get it. Like, doesn't make sense. I don't get it. Like, how is possible? Like, I get it at the start of the season, even though I think it was kind of weird at the start of the season. I guess we can start. I guess that's something I don't think we have even topics, but I think it is the biggest issue. Have you seen it? Like the LPs of people in EU already? They have above 2K already in EU at Masters. I think 3 persons has about 2K LP in EU at Eternal Ladder. Just to say, there's still not nobody in EU has 3K on standard ladder. So you just see how much easier it is to climb in Eternal, for example.
Yeah, Eternal Ladder is wild. That's definitely a thing. The other thing is like, it's not just. Oh, I need to fix the. I adjusted your volume down a bit. Oh no, not that. It's not just that like stuff is weird and people are climbing more in Eternal. Like, matchmaking is hella scuffed. You can't get stats like at all. First of all, we can't tell if a game is Eternal or
you can tell
standard.
if it's Eternal. Can't you?
Not through the API. There's some like tricks where you like guess if someone's playing Eternal. Like, if you look at their deck and see an Eternal card, they're playing Eternal. But like, if 2 people play 2 standard legal decks,
I thought AR told you. Oh, does AR not tell? It tells you like best of 3 Eternal lobbies, but that's probably not the same at all.
I believe
I just meant someone's match history is what I meant. I don't know anything about. I know like none of the leaderboards show you the difference.
Yeah, I believe every API site uses the same trick where they just like look at the list and are like, I hope to see an Eternal card in somebody's list. Otherwise, I just don't know. And if you see like no Eternal card, like, admittedly, it's pretty hard to say that like you're gonna find two people playing Eternal and neither has a single Eternal card in it. Like, really?
It's
But like,
possible though. Like,
yeah, it's definitely possible.
Maybe the Aatrox Vayne mirror match.
Yeah.
Hello, Sigmund. Yeah,
I felt like
Aatrox.
when in these decks, like Aatrox Kane, even like I didn't definitely on these decks I can see that, but you know, like sure this is like definitely thinking that like stats, but like I think stats have since the LP change, honestly, are kind of scuffed, and especially in this season when like Masters, I'm Masters, I'm still meeting bronzes. Like when I usually looked, the bronze player was like Masters in standard. But still, I think like they tend to meme, and if you're in bronze, for example, like it's impossible to not climb from bronze if you a little bit try, right? So like if you tried actually, then you would be already in gold at least, when when it gets maybe a little bit slower, but
Yeah,
yeah.
Matchmaking is ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense. And like, I don't know, even these like personal stats where like people will be like, oh, like the one that comes to mind because I remember seeing it and just like realizing how fucked stuff was like Roji played a lot of Varus Akshan cultists, and he personally did very well. I remember seeing him tweet that he had like a 90% win rate over 50 games. He went 45-5, which is absolute lunacy. I don't even know if the deck is good. Like, someone popping off that much? Like, did Roji farm a bunch of like bronze and silver players? Maybe. Who knows? And it's just like, normally, like, I could look at that and be like, okay, well, maybe this is like Roji's pet deck. Like, it's Talia Malphite or whatever. And Roji does fine with the deck. But I can at least have confidence that if you put up that kind of stats, like, the deck isn't bad. And like now, I don't even have that. Like, and it's not like I'm sitting here being like, oh, Cultist actually sucks and Roji doesn't know what he's doing. I don't even know. It might be bad. It might be good. I have no clue.
Yeah,
this information is just worthless.
The most frustrating thing to me is that all of our information is useless. Anything you personally do, anything BaJAtak personally does, anything I personally do does not matter and will not help us actually form a lineup or a good deck. And we're doing all of this for a tournament, like in a normal series, we'd be doing it for one tournament that's in 3 days, and we like just don't touch this meta again for another like 2 months. And like we do all of this on this fucked ladder system that means nothing and it's impossible, and we stress out, and then we get to play a singular tournament, and then just don't even look at 90% of these cards for another 2 months until
it is wild.
The issue of the ladder doesn't matter. The games don't matter. The issue is that standing on ladder matters a lot. So the issue is that like these people that have already 2k LP, they are not grinding because they like it. Maybe Rico. Actually, I think Rico is the only person that actually likes it and just wants to grind because Rico is kinda decent. But he's like rank 1 on both, standard and eternal. But the issue is that like people need these Runeterra points to get for qualification to Worlds. So people are grinding, getting the free games that they have. And it's kind of stupid. Let's be honest on that.
I mean, speaking of like how much ladder matters and how much of a joke it is, and how easy it is to like MMR fix. What is your take on the like? I'm not MMR fixing, but I'm like, it very much looks like MMR fixing. Like, no, I'm not gonna say anyone's name unless y'all want to or whatever. But people that are like have a 10% win rate, and you're like, well, they're not like actually conceding their games, but they're playing this like tier 12 deck that's not even tier 9 and a 10% win rate over like a ridiculous amount of games.
The situation I know of, that's like the highest profile one. I don't particularly want to say people's names at this point because it's still fixable in my eyes, and it's like, okay, until you like commit to this, I don't want to blast you. But the situation that I understand it is people are playing like dubious decks that are very easy to tell are dubious and are playing them for a long time at a low win rate. So it's like, you know what you're doing. Like if you're a competitive player and you're playing this specific deck that we've known has been a meme, it's been a meme for a while, you're playing it a lot, maybe you revisit it with like going back to Eternal. Maybe it's good now or whatever. But you don't play like 50, 80 games of this meme. You play like 5 or 10 and you're like, okay, moving on. And this also isn't people like Sunny would be a good example, where like Sunny frequently will have like a 15 game stretch with a very bad win rate on a deck because he's memeing. He makes content decks. It's fine. I get it. Sunny's not trying to MMR fix. It's specifically these people that are like play this like bad deck for a while, suddenly go up to rank 1, never touch the deck again. It's like it is clear you know what you're doing.
Yeah, it's just abusing the system when like you still like it's shady players, I would say. Like,
Yeah, it's weird
I like, of course, like the issues on the right side. Like, I should be fucking fixing it. Let's be honest. Like, we should not be like witch hunting them or something. If you do this, you're kind of dick. Let's be honest. Because you know what you are doing. You are abusing it, the system, and it's possible to get to these LPs that you have without doing this. And but it's taking much more time. This is the most effective, so I get it why they're doing that. It just sucks, and I just hope I have so much hope that I don't know if like this ladder season should be counting, if the first open should be counting, but surely it seems that that Riot doesn't want them to count it, so that's my issue. I would just like my thing is like they be saying, okay, sorry, we just not counting this ladder, we counting first open. Yeah, sorry, but we fucked up. Next season's gonna be better.
It's like particularly frustrating because like the first open like obviously was like horrific. There were so many different problems. But like the second open I thought went really well, and I was like optimistic. I was like, maybe we had like beta season part 2 in the middle of the real season, but like it's all fine now, and it's not fine. Like admittedly, like the open might be fine, but like this is such a fucked format. The ladder is like super bizarre. I mean, there's like a bunch of people where like I know Gregory the Grey. I would like remember his take where he doesn't tend to get motivated to grind for ladder or whatever, but he's definitely like a reasonably good player and could be motivated to try and grind for like worlds points or whatever. Like he could be motivated for this. And he like tweeted where he was like, I forgot how much of a slog it was to like grind up from iron. I'm just not interested. It's
like, same. Yeah. Like I don't, because I also am a little different because I don't actually need the eternal points because I'm top of standard, which makes it much easier. But I also was like, oh well, I'm going to play eternal anyways because I was like, I want to learn decks, I want to get format, and the mental was like, well, you need to get to masters to queue into other masters players. So it's like that's how you get ladder testing, etc. That's outside of scrims. So I was like, oh yeah, I'll play. And like he said, like first of all, it's fucking miserable. And I've done like several Iron to Masters challenges in one sittings, and I was like, yeah, I'm never doing this again because of how miserable it is. And then so for them to make me want to do that is fucked. But then I realized I was queuing into Masters players anyways when I was in Silver. So I was like, oh, this is just like I don't actually need to get to Masters to queue into these people. It's great. But yeah, I fully agree with him. It just made me not want to play. Maybe it'd be different if I didn't have ladder seeding, but on standard ladder. But I just,
I remember like the most miserable I've ever been on ladder was SI Nami season, and I was getting a Smurf to Masters to like have as a stream account or whatever. And I remember I went from bronze through silver with, I guess there was still iron, so it was iron through silver without losing a game, which was like 36-0. And like, I definitely should have lost games. Like, it wasn't like I was just giga cracked at that deck. It was like, I am better than my opponents because like, I mean, I think my main at that point was rank 1. I was just like, this is not fun for me, and I can't imagine it's fun for them. Like, I'm just literally smurfing in the purest definition of the word.
Yeah, well, it's also different, and so the way other Riot games and most games fix this problem is they give you rank jumps. Like in Rocket League and in Valorant, if you do really well or go on a streak, or even in Hearthstone, if you want to like one-to-one compare it to like a card game, if you start doing really well, and Magic Arena has this too, you win like I think it's 3 games in a row. The game's like, oh, you're on a win streak. We're gonna give you like double XP or something. So instead of getting your like 25 LP, you'd get 50 LP in this scenario. And it just helps you, like, the game recognizes like, oh, you're on a win streak. You either don't belong here because you're smurfing, or you're just like doing well, so we're going to reward you. And it gets you through these shitter ranks like just literally twice as fast, and sometimes even faster in regards to other games like Valorant and League, where it can just straight up skip you from like silver to platinum. And LOR doesn't do that. They just force you to have a very static LP gain and loss, and it's like, no, we're going to force you to play 100 games before you get to Masters.
Yeah,
I
I
like
mean-
those tricks. Those tricks is good. Like I think that's something that they definitely should be adding.
Yeah, I think like LOR's system is like mostly fine. This like eternal reset where like everybody's essentially having the Smurf experience is pretty bad, and also the like old school like actual Smurf experience where like for some reason there were a bunch of systems that like heavily encouraged people to Smurf. Like EU players needed to have an NA account to play a bunch of tournaments. You could like camp high LPs and still get practice on ladder if you had a Smurf. There were like tons and tons of reasons to be interested in having a Smurf account, and so like so many players were just like, I guess I'm gonna make a Smurf, and it's just like absolute misery. And like I wish there was a way to like, I don't know, tell Riot or something and be like, hey, you guys set up this system where I feel like I have to Smurf. Can I like just start at plat? You don't have to give me any resources, any cards. Can I just start at plat? Because like,
Fun fact: if you're an LPP, they'll give you an account that has all the resources. Not plat, but it'll give you all the resources, so you can just.
dude,
get plat
I would
faster.
take starting at plat than having resources.
Yeah, it's
Oh.
definitely not fun. Like,
Honestly, I
smurfing in this game is not fun.
I would take resources, honestly. Like the amount of money that I spend on my NM account is not like healthy, so like yeah, I would definitely take the resources, honestly. But
That's how we make
just
that's how we make LOR profitable. We keep
Yeah.
all tournaments region locked in NA and farm
no, that's
new
how you-
players.
No, you make it more profitable by next year switching it so only tournaments can be held in APAC.
Oh,
my
APAC,
God.
And
yeah.
so
and,
EU and NA players not have to go to APAC and
and then we
Mhm.
rotate. We go to EU, and then we're out of being able to make money. So then we split APAC and SEA, and we send everybody to SEA.
Yeah.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. We actually just give us back the 4th region and then just go over there.
Yeah, just to give a context on my ladder experience, like I made masters in Eternal. I'm like having mostly fun there. I was playing like things like Summer Action. It was pretty fun deck to play. But I'm still kind in the standard. I just lost before the podcast 100 LP. I'm not happy. Like I'm not having fun.
Yeah, I've been casually watching. By casual, I mean like I'll forget that I'm on ladder and that ladder matters, and I'll be like, oh shit, have I dropped many ranks over in standard? And I'll go look, and I'll drop like 1 rank, and then I notice like, oh, I've been sitting around like rank like 15, 16, 17 all season. Like this is pretty weird. And then I look, and then rank 26, which is the difference in points, is only like 150 LP behind me. And I'm like, oh, so people are actually just like playing to get rank 23 and then stop playing, and they're just like casually leapfrogging each other.
Funny
and
thing on EU,
and
they're like
really-
fighting. I'm fighting for top 10, right? And there's like 13 players that fighting for the top 10. Like, and then like there's a gap. Like,
Yeah, in NA, it's like I think there are some people that have made it into top 10. I think that it's just like so much time. If you're not already like in top 10, I don't know what the gap is. I saw we were at like 1800, or sorry, not 1800. Like top 10 was like 300 LP difference between what like rank 8 and rank 10 is or something like that. And so it's like going
Yeah.
after top 10 is like just ridiculous.
Yeah, I want to. I don't know. It feels super shitty to me to like have me still on the LP leaderboard, and I don't feel like I can ethically int out of it either. I just feel
Dude,
like
just
I
play
have to.
fucking Mono Rek'Sai Shurimo. Mono Rek'Sai Noxus for a couple of games.
I just
well-
like I don't feel like I should play at all. Like I feel like I should just be this like I don't know like dead weight with exactly 2000 LP and like I will not play a game. I'm just gonna let you guys deal with ladder around me because
yeah, like
If I, like-
I think like yeah, like it's whatever. Like I would of course like hope that like there's gonna be maybe that it's gonna drop to like 26% because that can maybe suck for the 26% if you take somebody in the spot,
yeah.
right? But like that happened in the past with the APAC players in NA, EU players in NA. Like it happened in the past as well. So like it's
Yeah.
something.
If I get
Yeah,
down
that's
to the
always been
lowest
interesting to me.
if I get down to the lowest bracket, I'm not gonna feel bad because then I'm taking like a pretty not valuable spot.
Yeah.
And
It always was. Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
the other thing that I'd actually like, that I feel like is the best solution would be like, it's like a manual like single person solution, so it's not going to happen. But like literally a rioter just getting in and editing my LP to 500 and just being like, nobody gets this LP. We're just deleting it.
Yeah, I mean, I just would like. I always thought it was interesting that they would do that, where they would like take our snapshots, but instead of like moving people down or like verifying who's legal, who's not, like who's supposed to have LP and rank points, they just take the snapshot and then they wait until the very end, and they're like, okay, like this is what qualified, and we had some like NAO, Sergi was like always like top whatever it was needed to qualify for Worlds on NA. And then that's at that point is when they would be like, oh, you don't qualify, move you to the like whatever spot, and everyone goes up one. And to me, it should be the other way around, where like he shouldn't have been on there in the first place. And like think of all the people that were like missing Worlds points through those seasons that he was rank up there.
Probably wouldn't have affected much, but like it definitely could have. And like it seems easier to do it that way than the other way. I don't know. I feel like there's a bunch of stuff of like, the number of people in like high ladder is not that big. Like the number of people this would affect is like maybe 200 people per shard. And I feel like if you are someone who's like playing in another server, like where's your NA account? Does it have like reasonable amounts?
Low. I didn't play on it like months.
You got 28 rank, which like is there. I feel like it's not that hard for like people to kind of like self-indicate to Riot. For like BaJAtak to be like, just tell Riot like, hey, BaJAtak NA is my NA account. Please don't count it. And like, I feel like people would do that. Like, I don't know. It used to be a lot more where it was like specifically Chinese players playing on NA that I remember. Now there's a lot less of that.
Wait, am I not top 25? Wait, where am I at? Oh, this is doomed. Do I have to play this game?
Oh my god.
Wait.
Control F?
Okay, that's not it.
Wait, do you have a different name? Or are you just like straight up gone from the leaderboard?
Oh, do I have a different name? I haven't logged in.
Are you Lay Cuff Loke?
I don't know. We'll find out. Am I what?
That's the
I am
season.
Lay Cuff Luke. I am Lay Cuff Luke. #0000.
Okay. Well, you were ranked
What's up,
19 then.
Oh yeah.
We found you.
What language is that? Today is.
Mo's finding out his account name as we speak.
Detect language. Lay Cuff Luke. Lee will lock. LOK. From Arabic. Any Arabicers in chat?
Okay, I have a question on here. Where did you? What link you click on?
Dude, I don't click on any links, man.
And nobody knows hash.
LEE. It says Lee will, and then LOK lock. Lee will lock. Lee will look. Loke. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a Lee Sin reference.
Yeah, I guess so.
No idea.
I guess we should get back to the podcast.
Yeah.
What do you think about timelines hotfix, guys?
Rip Bozo.
That's interesting. I did not think so, because people were in chats saying like, "Do you think Riot will hotfix this?" And I'm like, "Is Riot capable of hotfixing stuff?" Yeah, they've literally done it to us like for Worlds qualifiers and stuff. Did I think Riot was going to hotfix something literally 4 days before like the Open off of one random tournament? It's like, no, I did not think that at all.
I'm not even sure Timeline's entirely needed a hotfix. I mean, I think like people. Timelines is probably not the most hated deck of all time. I think that title will forever belong to Azir Aurelia. But Timelines is definitely up there. People don't like the deck. And I don't know. I feel like the more level-headed takes that I saw about Timelines were basically like, this deck seems a little overtuned and I don't like it. Can we get rid of it? So
that was me, right? Like, there's what you told me like a few months ago. If you want something to change, go on Reddit. I did that, and Timeline's got hotfix. So I think no. If you want to know the reason, of course I'm the reason, right? Because I complain on it on the Reddit as well on Twitter.
Everything I've learned is that you and Aikado are behind every single change that's ever happened to Riot ever. That's what I've learned. Anytime anything ever gets nerfed or changed, it's you told us first, and then Aikado's the reason it got changed.
Yeah, I'm happy that like it happened, to be honest. But of course, like I've even had some like comments and stuff like, man, I'm kind of like, you know, it's just changed. I have already prepared a lineup, and like now they change it. Of course, like that's kind of sucks. I'm very happy that it honestly happened because I despise timelines. I hate it so much. But I think the timing maybe not the best one. Maybe like make one open with timelines, the second maybe without timelines or something. That would be maybe even more interesting because like the meta would completely change. But
Yeah.
yeah,
I
I'm
mean,
happy that it happened, I guess.
I don't like timelines. I'm not gonna say that like I miss its dominance, but
I do.
Also, like, I kind of feel like the people saying like I was just gonna like I already had my lineup ready. It was kind of like, okay, you were probably just saying like timelines is probably good enough, so I'm shipping that, which like is fine, but like hard to say that timelines was definitely the best.
Yeah,
and then like
I think
the change is just like, okay, well now like you just have no clue like everybody else. Like if you had a non-timelines lineup and you were like, I'm confident in this, like you shouldn't have been. So there's no change. But
yeah, that's the most frustrating thing is it was like we had no indication on what meta was outside of like you had to guess what the strongest decks were, and like some people guessed, like myself included, that Timelines was the best deck in the meta, and I was like, oh yeah, Timeline's very strong. You know, and I was not just I, but a lot of people were correct. Obviously, the people that did well in the tournament were correct. And then Riot, so we finally had our first indication of what like actual meta looked like, and we're like, oh, okay, we have data, kind of, that matters, kind of. So let's like maybe start building our meta and our lineups and our like testing around it. And then Riot's just like, no, like
yeah,
no,
I mean,
none of that.
we're just pure vibing. Like this meta is just all vibes. Nobody has any clue what's good. That's fine. I do think like I was telling Baya, I don't know how many people were around prior to this, but I think this open is going to be super fun and it's going to feel like this incredible meta. I don't know if the meta is actually good. The meta might just be absolute dog shit, where there's like a hilariously broken tier 0 deck that we don't know about yet, or at least don't know is tier 0 yet. But the meta is going to feel great for the open. Everybody's just going to be like playing decks that they think are cool. It's going to be great. Is it actually a good meta? Who knows? But like, it'll be good for one open. The second open, probably not. But
yeah, a lot of decks are so sus, I would say, in this meta, and it was especially with the timelines. Like, I don't think like that was very good. I was even like thinking like not bringing any because they're so sus, right? They're just doing their thing or they're not doing their thing. And I think that's something that we have in this meta. We had with the timelines. We have like with Nasus. I think San is also an amazing example of that. Like the decks sometimes do very strong things and they're kind of unstoppable, and sometimes they don't do anything. And like it's feeling very weird, to be honest.
I don't think we have found like a really good deck yet. The closest I think we found is Samira Seraphine. But like,
wow, really? I think the closest we found is Karma's Shadow Isles, Ionia.
I have not spent enough time on that deck, I will be completely honest, but like pretty much every deck that I see floating around just kind of feels like what you're describing, Bio, where like it has its powerful thing that it does some of the time, and then other times it's just a steaming pile of shit. And it's like, we don't have these things that are like broken Vayne Aatrox or like Red Gwen, where it was like every hand was good enough.
Yeah.
We just like have these decks where it's like, okay, we found this like synergy point that's really good, but we have not found what to put around it. Like, I mean, there's like I think the clearest example of that is like the like condensed deck, where it's like Bandle City Bilgewater, and it's like condensed BB or condensed Shelly, and like if you like play a Shelly and it doesn't die on sight, and you just like condense Shelly, like your deck is like absolutely insane. And if you just don't draw Shelly, your deck is just like absolute garbage.
Yeah.
And it's like
such a sus deck, yeah.
Yeah, you've like found a synergy point that's really good. I don't think we found what to put around it, but
yeah, I think like the best thing you can do is like just play some solitaire deck, and then it's just like, what's the best solitaire deck we have right now? And it's like, there's nothing that's just like consistently doing crazy things like the old solitaire decks did. It's just very interesting.
Yeah. But the perfect doesn't seem that perfect as I thought. Like the format isn't that perfect as I thought, as I expected, because like we were like so permanent that it's gonna be the perfect. And I don't know if how much stronger it is than like the standard actually, honestly. Because I think
Frankly,
like
frankly, I think Eternal is like not one of the stronger formats that we've had. Like, I think the strongest formats that we've had are like just prior to rotation, which was technically Eternal, and then like Seraphine Vane format. Both of them, although like super broken Seraphine Vane. Pre-World Ender was dumber because you had 6 spell Seraphine.
Yeah, that's what
Although I would also say post-World Enders was like one of the higher power level formats we've had, and then like Samira release. I feel like those were some of the highest power level formats we've had, and it's not like Eternal. A bunch of the stuff that got rotated, like we didn't get these like super high impact reverts that I think people were expecting. Like Timelines revert, obviously high impact, we hotfixed it back, but like I don't even think Timelines was like really up there in terms of power level compared to like these broken decks in the past we've had. It just was like
better than
very frustrating. But like we don't have broken Nami back. We don't have
Plaza
Watcher.
was like the other people were just like, oh my god, they reverted Plaza and they like pseudo reverted Poppy.
Poppy.
And like the issue I think is just everything beats there's a lot of things that can beat these Demacia decks like on accident. Like Draven Scion just like accidentally beats you, and Draven Scion just got blowback. And it's like Nasus accidentally beats you, and you're just like sad. And you're like, oh, the most popular decks accidentally beat me. And then it's like, oh, well, it's like you're gonna smoke control, and it's like, well, what's the best control deck right now? It's like SI Karma, and if you don't have exactly form up to match their Culling Strike, then you like lose. And then the other one, because people aren't playing Karma SI, is like PNZ Noxus, and again, that's just like stun flock and you lose. And it's just like, damn, it's really like weird how things lined up. And I think we're just in a weird meta where these mediocre decks accidentally beat the like raw powerful decks just because of the like nature of how their cards work. Like I think in a vacuum, Poppy and Plaza is just like much stronger than Seraphine Samira. But I think because Seraphine Samira beats those decks, that it's just like, yeah, you can't play them. Because the most popular decks accidentally beat these.
Yeah. I mean, I think Eternal will end up becoming more and more powerful. I think we're going to see some like aggressive reverts as time goes on, where they're going to be like, okay, like, for example, like, I think Watcher getting reverted or pseudo-reverted is pretty likely at some point in the future. I think that deck will likely be good, because that deck was a control deck that just like absolutely killed you on the spot. And I think we'll see like these kind of like reverts trickle in, but when you're starting off at like it's not Combat Cook, War Chefs. It's the same like kind of concept. War Chefs are like, I'm sorry, but like leave War Chefs in 2020 where he belongs. Like that card isn't good.
Yeah, I think that was the issue, is they reverted a lot of cards that just aren't good. Like they wouldn't be good now. Like a lot of like people, I think the best example of how power crept LOR is like if you gave back full power Nami Fizz, or sorry, TF Nami, TF Fizz. If you gave back full power TF Fizz, the deck would be good. It beat like every tier like 3 deck. It beat most of the tier 2 decks, but the deck's not gonna be like this tier 0 100 LP an hour style deck anymore just because of how strong the
I don't think it's the monstrosity that it once was. Like, frequently people are like, oh, Tia Fizz was the best deck that ever existed. And I do agree with that take, but I don't think it is the best in terms of, like, it actually had the highest power
total
level.
Power, yeah.
It was like
in relative to everything else at the time.
Yeah.
I think total power level, it's probably Kaisa, no?
Kaisa, maybe
Seraphine.
6-spell Sarah.
Yeah,
6-spell Sarah was, like, unbelievably fucked.
You
but,
you would accidentally flip that. You'd play a real 3 of BBG deck and accidentally flip it on turn 5. Like, you'd be playing a full-on, like, Magic the Gathering 4 ofs only. And be like, oops, I flipped it on turn 5.
Yeah, that was the Seraphine, right? That like the the KEKW, and it was playing like 3 of Mystic Shot, 3 of High Note, and it was
I played 3 of everything. I think there was like maybe a couple like 2 ofs because people were like, "Oh, this has a deck building cost," and it's just like, no, it doesn't, man.
Seraphine, 6-spell Seraphine was one of the few times that, like, I think you can actually say the devs fucked up on that one, because, like, okay, Kaisa, I have a story that I tell myself about Kaisa, where the devs just did not realize that Valor was a card.
No, they didn't realize. They were like, no one's actually going to main deck this 1-mana Lurk unit, not in
Okay,
Lurk.
Lurk 1-drop, but I think you also just have to miss Valor. Because if you just don't have Lurk 1-drop, broken Kaisa is still broken. But like, nerfed Kaisa is fine. But like, broken Kaisa, if you just miss Valor, I can imagine thinking the deck is okay. Where you're just sitting here and you're like, okay, like, how easy is it to get how easy is it to get Scout? We can play this like 2/2 with Barrier, but like that's easy to kill. It's like 3 unit mana, it's hard to get into play. I don't think people are going to be flipping Kaisa with Scout on 5. So I can definitely understand that. But with 6-spell Seraphine, like if you picked a region at random, you probably found a broken deck. Like, what were the decks you were testing?
Yeah, I remember that was our conversation when it came up. Was Michael was like, "Yeah, I just don't know what deck they could have possibly been testing that you weren't flipping Seraphine on 5." And I was like, "Yeah, like even Demacia Seraphine, like the probably like spellless region, you're just like, I'm just still like in PNZ and like accidentally flipping this."
I mean, like if you played like Seraphine Lux, like was it that bad? And like everything else, like Seraphine Freljord was probably the worst one past that, and like that deck was still fine. Like it wasn't even bad. And like God forbid you find Noxus.
But they were maybe testing it against Vayne though. So like Vayne was also like in the same patch. So,
yeah, I think that's what a lot of people assumed, is that they they practice like new things against each other. Because that's also the only thing that made sense to me, was like that Vayne was giga fucking broken. And so like and Vayne like actually countered Seraphine. So like if you're like internally testing the only other like giga broken thing that happens to counter your second most giga broken thing, then you can think it's fine, but I don't know.
That one just doesn't make sense to me. The only other times that I felt like that was like stress testing, but like I also stress testing.
Stress testing.
But I also remember Ruben commenting that like they apparently tested it and they played like 2 games, and like TF flipped on 5 one game, and then TF wasn't drawn the second game. And they're like, yeah, this is probably fine, and just shipped it. It was like, no. That TF flipping on 5, that happens every game.
Yeah. Couldn't you flip TF on 4 if you had like triple stress testing with like double or triple stress testing rummage or something like that?
It was possible on 4, but that's like not a realistic one. But
the fact that it's possible just made me fucking laugh. It was like rummage double stress testing, portal cannon stress testing, or like something stupid like that.
I think you need 3 rummages, but
that's funny.
Yeah. What do we have next?
Oh, what about 9x lineups? Because I saw Micah post something that's a very interesting take. That I don't know if his take, or if you
I can go find it, but
posting someone else's take, which was like you could have this idea of like not playing 9x epics or something.
I actually thought about this because like Timelines is an epic, so it like came to mind. But we've had this problem where like 9x lineups have come up in the past. Tree was probably the most prominent one, but we've seen like 9x Broadmains be tournament relevant, 9x Timelines recently. And there's also been these like small ball ones where like Rally, Decimate, Star Shaping has been 9x'd. There's probably a lot of things that have been 9x to a reasonable amount of success, but like the big high profile ones have been like Timelines, Tree, Broadbane. And
Decimate, right? Also.
Yeah, Decimate a little bit. I don't know where to draw the line with Decimate, but I think most people agree that these like build around 9x lineups are pretty cringe, where you got like 9x Tree, 9x Broadmain, 9x Timelines, where like your opponent isn't presenting 3 decks that happen to have the same card in them. They are presenting 3 of the same deck in like progressively worse. Where they're sitting there and they're like, okay, well, I've got Bandletree with Noxus, and you're going to ban that one. So here's shitty Bandletree number 2, and here's shitty Bandletree number 3.
Yeah.
And I think that's like an understandable thing to be like, I don't like this. But I don't really have a problem when people play like 9x Petrosite Broadwing lineups, where they're saying like, I'm playing 3 Demacia decks. And it's like, okay, that's fine. I'm cool with that. Or like 9x Mystic Shot, where it's
Or
like
Whale. You know.
Whale, like at least we're talking like SI control, but like Mystic
Right.
Shot could be like Scion, some SI P and Z control deck, like Heimer Jace, and then like I don't know, Karma Set. And it's like these are not the same deck. Like
Yeah.
they happen to have Mystic Shot, but they're not the same deck.
Yeah. I mean, I think the like fastest fix or easiest or like the first fix people immediately think of would just be to simply regen lock. But the issue with regen lock is like your decks aren't always the same. Like I can play 3
Yeah.
different Noxus decks and they be so unbelievably different style decks that it's like no reason
Yeah.
to be locking me out of Noxus.
I don't like region lock for that because I think 3x A region lineups are generally fine. And I don't even like what currently happens with Riot Lock, where you can't play the same region combo twice. Because the one that comes to mind was there was a meta where Thralls and Overwhelm were both good. And they would have been an incredible lineup, but you weren't allowed to play Freljord Shurima twice. The decks, I did the math because it was pretty funny. The decks literally shared no cards. If you did Collection Lock, it would have been fine. You could have played both. But like, they're both Freljord Shurima, so you can't play them.
I came into the same issue even this weekend on Mastering with the Open. I wanted to play Sarah Bundle City and Timelines Champlace, and I couldn't.
Yeah, and it's like, I think that's kind of silly. I do think saying like you can max a region, you can maximum use a specific region twice would be like an acceptable solution. But I don't know. I kind of like the idea of just saying like, we're going to say epics, you can't have more than like 2 decks with a specific epic. And if we're having a problem with people like 9xing Broadmain, I think Broadmain's already an epic, but you just say like, Broadmain's an epic. You can play 2 Broadmain decks. We'll let you play 2, but you're not allowed to play 3. Or Timelines, or Battle Tree. I think it hits all of those. And if you're like concerned about 9x Decimate, promote Decimate to an epic. And it's like, I do think there's a fair criticism. I saw it a couple of times where people like didn't like this is adding complexity. I feel like it's on the same level as like you can't have 2 champless decks. Because that's a rule right now. It never comes up. But like,
but that's also very easy to understand. It's like, oh, I can't play 2 champions, or I can't play 2 decks with no champions, and that is like you can accidentally mess that up, but it doesn't happen. I feel like you can easily accidentally mess this up. I mean, like we're talking about accidentally messing up lineups with like just the rules we have now, where you're like, oh, I can't play Thralls, and I can't play Overwhelm. So it's like, no way, people are constantly gonna have to accidentally mess up by going like, oh, I like put this card in my deck and like can't do it or whatever.
I mean, if we decide this isn't a problem worth solving, like, I'm okay with that decision, but I'm also kind of frustrated with, like, 9x lineups keeping coming up, and we never even try and solve it, so.
Yeah. I would have an issue if it actually mattered. I think the closest we had to it actually mattering was Guga's seasonal run, where he got 2nd place with Tree. Outside of that, though, it doesn't really matter because your 3rd deck is usually just so fucking bad that it gets cooked by anything. You can definitely make the argument of like, well, your first 2 could be like with Timelines, for example. I think your best like triple Timelines lineup was the good Timelines deck, the other good Timelines deck, and then just not a Timelines deck. Like you just play a 3rd like very strong deck, and that was like your triple deck. So like that's way more frustrating. Where you're like, oh, both of these decks are legitimately good, and I like don't have play into either of them, so I'm basically having to 2-0 this other deck because I'm never beating the first one. I think the triple is just so often where the 3rd deck is just so fucking cooked.
Jack Zwei, I think. Jack Zwei was by far the worst Timelines in my opinion.
I think everybody agreed Jax was the bad one.
And so like if I saw Jack Zwei, I'm like, oh cool, they like, if they don't have Timelines on 1, they auto lose. And if they have Timelines on 1, I'm still like, not too upset unless they just like super high roll units or whatever.
Dude, I played against Timelines today, post nerf, and they hit Timelines like first Timelines rolled knock attack. I was just like, oh, all right, it's that game.
Yeah, that's the thing is like I wonder if Timelines is actually that bad. And what we kind of come to the conclusion of in our team was like Timelines isn't bad like by any means. It's just fair. Well, it's just like good. It's not like amazing. It's not great. It's just like you can play it and beat most people because the deck's not bad. And that's
Yeah,
just like
good
not really
point.
where you want to be.
And
I mean,
also,
it's
I think
definitely
Bandicity PNC hit the biggest hit out of all timelines, I think, because the deck
yeah.
was kind of aggressive deck, right? And like now
Mhm.
they have to skip even
Yep.
turn 2, and like that's kind of an issue for them, definitely. So, the deck is still decent though. I think all of them, especially I think, for example, like their own Thunder doesn't much go honestly. So
Mhm.
I think the decks are still decent, but definitely people will. You can take it as like also like possible never, I guess, and like I think definitely people are gonna be not playing them that much.
Yeah, I think it's definitely playable, and it's definitely like in this just kind of soup of like this deck might be good. Who knows? No one, literally no one. So
Yeah.
you can play it if you want.
And that's what I love about the nerf is that I don't have to play them as because I was thinking about them and it just made me okay. I'm not playing them. So I was like, I was questioning myself so much, and I'm happy that they gave me okay. Not don't play it.
It does work out nicely for timelines haters.
Yeah,
I don't
because like
understand how people hate these very fun concepts. Like my favorite champions in the game is like Bard, Nora, and Timelines has been one of my favorite decks for like a very long time. Or one of my favorite decks for a long time, and people are like, Bard can never be buffed and Nora needs a nerf, and I hope Timelines never comes back. And I was like,
Okay, can we
I
like
don't understand.
can we put Bard to like start on turn 2? That also feels like an
Or
eternal
what?
revert.
I don't know. Bard's okay. I didn't think Bard was like that crazy. I just think it felt not great sometimes.
yeah,
I don't know. Like, so one of the things that like I find frustrating about Eternal is like a lot of the stupid cards that I'd really like to see reverted have been released recently because we've been power creeping, and so like they didn't even get rotated. So like I can't really argue for a Bard revert because he's in standard.
It's standard, right? Anything in standard, it's hard to revert. But I don't know, dude. I think they did him real dirty. That's my opinion.
There's like the other example of this is like I really think Eternal should have Lee Sin back. The problem is reverting Lee Sin doesn't do that. You have to revert Zenith Blade, and Pantheon is in standard with Zenith Blade. You cannot revert Zenith Blade.
While also giving him the new unit. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Has
like
anyone played much? Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
well, it's like I think Eternal should really get Lee Sin back, but like we literally need to rotate the Zenith Blade so we can revert it.
Yeah. Do you ever think there's a possibility for? Because I think Magic done this. I don't keep up with Magic at all, really. But I know they're like have a gajillion formats since the last time I played because I'm a boomer.
Yeah.
And one of their formats is it's like online only, and they basically like changed how cards work from the different formats. So like the standard or paper physical card will say like 1 mana deal 2. But in this like other format, we'll just call like Eternal Plus, it's like 1 mana deal 3. And do you think that's something that like Riot should do or could do or would do, where they're like, yeah, sure, Zenith Blade in Eternal only is like grant permanent overwhelm, but in standard it's still just I don't even know what the card does anymore.
I don't like that. I don't like it when a card works differently depending on where you're using it. So I'd recommend not doing that. But
yeah, too confusing. I think for like players especially.
yeah,
Like,
particularly with how generous LOR is, if you're interested in doing anything like that, I would just print another card, like what happened to the form up in Sharpsight. Also, like Sharpsight should be reverted. It should be +2/+2 in Eternal now, but
Yeah, I remember people being like, "I can't wait to play Sharpsight." Like, because so before Eternal happened, people were like, "Oh, everyone's gonna forget that these like cards exist, like Pokey and Vile," and they're just like going through these list of cards of like, "Can't wait to play Pokey, can't wait to play Vile," and they're like, "Yeah, can't wait to play like Sharpsight. I don't have to play bad Sharpsight anymore." And I was just like, "Why? Why is Sharpsight?" Yeah, I was like, Sharpsight is bad." And they're like, "No, dude, it can block elusives." I was like,
oh my god.
what elusive? It's like, what are you talking about here? I was like, and we got Badger Bear, so like, we can block elusive if elusives is a problem.
Yeah, honestly, like Badger Bear is such a honestly cool card. I like it a lot. Even though the card is pretty strong, let's be honest on that. I think like it's giving.
I think
like,
Badger Bear landed in a perfect spot. It is strong, worth playing, even if you're like not concerned about elusives, and it just means like Demacia decks like have a little bit of resiliency to elusives. I think it's like I think they should probably spread the keyword around like a little bit more. I don't know how much like in specifically Demacia, but like I think some other regions could get a little bit of access to the keyword that have like poor access to elusives themselves. Like Noxus comes to mind, Shurima comes to mind.
I feel like Shurima kind of has that with things like quicksand, though.
Yeah.
I think the master was like having the biggest weakness on like the and like I think this is like amazing fix for that. So like I definitely like it, even though it's maybe kind of stupid, but I don't mind it honestly.
Yeah, big agree that it's hard to balance things out and make them broken again in Eternal if they are specifically in Standard without just like printing a second card. But even like printing a second card, you'd have to print that card specifically for Eternal because as far as we know, like every card that comes out is going to be Standard until they do their, however often they plan to do their rotations. I don't actually know, but like
I do think they're gonna need to rip the band-aid off on that and just like be willing to print cards for Eternal because like I
that
think
would
we're
be
gonna have
cool
these
for the
things.
mini expansions.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have
Yeah.
these problems where like we're going into an Eternal season and they want to print cards for Eternal and like you just have this problem where like most of them are just misses. Like even the ones that looked good, like Blowback, it's like fine. It's not even like the exciting card that people were hoping for. Like
Well, Condense is the
Condense, yeah, but like past that, like what cards were people like?
I mean, it was just those two, right? It was like Pantheon Follower, Condense, and Blowback. Or like the only
Yeah.
three people were
Content
talking about.
Flower we knew is like standard card mostly. Condense is like overall very good card. Blowback is decent, and we have the Weapon Master as well in the Fairlight. That's
Yeah,
Yeah,
also
but
good.
like even like Condense was definitely the most hyped card, and it has been good, which like I don't think is what people were expecting. People were expecting this card to be like nuts, and it's just good, and it's like
The card is nuts. The decks are good.
sure. I mean,
let's be
I think that's like a fine way of phrasing it, but like I don't think this card is living up to what people were expecting from it. And it's like, if you're gonna print like cards going into an Eternal season, people are kind of expecting them to impact Eternal. And like most of these don't. Like the one that comes to mind most is the Ionia Bird. That card was dead on arrival in Eternal. Because like you're not playing Ionia Demacia. That is not happening in Eternal. So like what is this card doing in this set? Like you release it in another set, like you release it last expansion or whatever, and like all of a sudden like Shen J4 is like, maybe I play some birds and use this like bird card to like challenge for board dominance. And like Standard could have actually played that card. Eternal isn't going to. And it's like
Yeah.
The new thingy has like it's kind of weird, let's be honest. Like the new 3-month cycle is kind of weird, I would say. Like especially like as you're saying, the cards new are for standard, even though we are going into Eternal season. We balancing Eternal season before we know even what is good in Eternal.
Yeah.
And like
That's
it doesn't make much sense, but yeah.
yeah, that's
I
why
think
I
they-
like I think it all like makes sense overall of like, oh, standard, Eternal. You're like, yeah, kind of mix it up. A lot of like competitive card games do that where they make you play a different format at least like once in a qualifying season or something, or they make you play like draft or something where it's like not a new format, or sorry, it's not like a whole new set where you're playing with Eternal cards, but it's just a new format because you're playing draft or whatever. But the issue is exactly what like BaJAtak said, which is we just don't play it enough to like, no one plays Eternal for 2 months. And then they're like, oh, here is a standard, or here's a balance patch for it. And you're like, why? Like, where did you come up with this? Like, how did you come up with this? Like, what is your reasoning for this? And then we spend 2 weeks, because that's all we really get after the balance patch is 2 weeks before the open, 2.5. And then, like, no one cares. And it's because we just go back to playing standard. I think, like, a much better way to have done something like this was to be like, oh, this is, like, your standard, because there's 3 total qualification seasons, right? So it's like this season number 1 is just standard, and then like season number 2 is just Eternal, and then season 3 is like just standard. And at least that makes like more sense of we know like how to get balances. We can balance for multiple months in a row, and I don't know. You don't have to balance 2 different ladders. It's just it
Yeah, I
felt
can see that.
more interesting.
yeah, I definitely
That's
think
much better.
I definitely think Eternal Ladder should have been open significantly earlier. Just like even if like it's not doing anything, just sitting there and being like literally if like you were capped at Masters 0 LP in like Eternal, so like you can make it to Masters, you can't get LP here, but like you can make it there. And it was just
like no head start for you, or no like
yeah.
significant head start.
Yeah, and you can sit there and you can be like, okay, we get some clue of what's good in Eternal to do our balance patch off of or whatever. Because, like, if you're a competitive player and they did that, I think all of us would have ground to Masters. Like, to
I don't
have
know, that's true. I don't even know if I would have done that. Like,
I don't know.
I think most
yeah,
of
I
us
probably would have.
have,
I would have just played standard. I would have played standard until like I was in camping spot, and then I'd be like, okay, time to go play Eternal, I guess.
Yeah, have some fun maybe. Let's play some fun decks. Let's play
Yeah,
my
exactly.
Aphelios Zoes. I don't know.
Yeah, or realistically, I would have done what I did this time, which was play through standard until like right before the Eternal patch, like right after the standard open finished, and it's like, oh, we're going into Eternal in 4 days. Let me start playing Eternal, and then that's definitely not giving them any amount of information.
Yeah. But like some people would play that. Maybe they would be like, that was like also the complaints of people like, they want to play their Aphelios, they want to play their Zoe, but they can only normals and they don't like it. So
that was horrible.
that like then like at least these people would be like much better. I definitely agree. I think there might be some evolution to this cycle because I think it's still not hitting the mark. And I think also the biggest issue of this season, honestly, is the bonus open that we have. And like the Athena mattering too much, I feel like, and that's something that I'm personally not happy about.
If we didn't have the bonus open, would the open have been this weekend or next weekend?
This
next
weekend.
Next.
No, it would have been next weekend.
That actually feels like it would work a lot better because we have like.
I might be making.
We usually have our opens 2.5 weeks after the patch. And this is the 2.5 week.
I was talking. I think I was talking to Marsha or something, and I maybe me making shit up, but I've heard that it was like 17, scheduled to 17, and they added the bonus one, and it was did to the 10. But I might be making shit up, honestly. So
let's see. Additional, we will be making an additional open, and this will take place on the 17/18th. So this is the one that would have been mattering.
Okay.
That's at the bottom of the first open article. It says additional Runeterra open. As there were several issues, we're going to place an additional open. This open will take place 17/18 and be played in the Eternal format.
Okay.
So.
But I like this. That's another. I'm not fond of it, but I said I would just love if the first open and the ladder just didn't count based on how screwed it was up. So
I think the ladders should not count at all for this season, but I also think we're just so far and so deep into the season that there is absolutely no possible way for them to make that a ruling. Like imagine telling people like Kawako and Nick or like whoever else that spent like
right?
they spent hundreds of, not probably hundreds, but like thousands of games, like dozens of hours to get to this like ridiculous LP in top 10, and then be like, yeah, we're just not gonna make it count.
Yeah, sure. But but you can maybe give some compensation different way. But like,
I agree. I think they should.
I personally granted the standard ladder everything, and I wouldn't mind it. They just said, okay, we fucked up. Also the first open. I get also some Runeterra points from first open. So like I'm going against myself honestly, like in this way, and I just don't think it's the best way how to do that because, if there's issues, it just should not count in my opinion.
Yeah,
especially major issues, right? If there's like small issue, like we had in the second open, the second open was, small issues, but it was fine. Count it definitely, but don't count the first open, don't count the ladder because there was too many issues.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I just think there are people that don't, and I don't think there's a way to make everyone happy. So it's like if you're Riot, the company, what do you do? Like, do you put everyone on an even playing field and say like, oh yeah, we super fucked up. This doesn't count. Everyone even playing field. But then, like, you screw over all these people that did get in. Not saying they didn't necessarily like deserve it. There are some people that did, some people that didn't. So it's a mixed bag. But like, do you fuck those people over, or do you just say like, oh no, you can keep your points, and then now like everyone else, like the Teddies and the like whoever else that would 9-1 the Rogis, and now like they're getting fucked over. So it's like, what do you actually do as the company Riot Games? And this is what they decided was best, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, exciting discussion, but I have to cut out. So
I guess we also talked like about the thing that we wanted, so it's completely fine.